This is whole and complete. There is nothing else. There's nothing else to be found or gained or achieved. That's just part of a dream. And the good news are that nothing has to be achieved, nothing has to be gained. What happens is perfect in its own incomprehensible way. It has nothing to do with being good or bad, or even being pleasant or unpleasant. That's not really something that counts. However, the suffering that the person lives in, or the struggle that the person lives in, is illusory. It might seem real within that experience, but actually it's based on beliefs and assumptions, and of course, kind of a sense of lack. It's not really conscious. It's not that there's a constant feeling of suffering or something, but it's just this subtle, more or less subtle, it depends, but more or less subtle impression that there must be more, and that something else would be fulfilling, or that there is something called fulfillment, and that that's not the case yet. That's the personal experience. And usually it's kind of unspoken. It's not even something the person really thinks about. It's just set. It's the set experience that that's just life happening, and it's kind of maybe good or nice or fun, at least at times, but that there is an actual thing. And when I'm really alive, when I live my dreams completely, when I'm totally authentic, or when I'm enlightened and fulfilled, and all those spiritual ideas, of course. But there's just this subtle assumption that there's more. And in this subtle assumption that there's more, there's an apparent rejection of what happens. It's kind of energetically saying no to this. Of course, again, it's not conscious, really. It's just within the energy of being a person. And what we talk about here is that this whole impression is illusory. It's just not true that something is missing. It's just not true in that sense that there must be more. It's whole and complete already, all the time. This wholeness and this completion, it just has nothing to do with the person's idea about wholeness and completion. And as I said, the person's idea is full of dreams and beliefs and hopes and stuff like that. This being whole and complete, and this being perfect in its own incomprehensible ways, much more natural and much more ordinary. There is nothing else than what seems to be happening. There is nothing else than this, being this, so to speak, this apparently happening. There isn't more. So that's it. That's the natural reality. It can't be achieved because there is no one separate from it. It can't be realized because it is everything. Everything that seems to be happening is whole and complete. And I know this can't be understood or experienced. This can't be experienced. Of course, the person would constantly ask, how can I see that? How can I become aware of that? How can this become my personal reality? How can wholeness, what it's actually saying is, how can wholeness become relative to me? How can there be me and wholeness? How can I sustain within everything? How can I remain apart within the undivided? And that's just impossible. It's impossible. That's why all seeking is futile. It's not a concept or a dogma, because of course seeking itself is also whole and complete. It's not against seeking, but the very dynamic of seeking is futile within itself. It'll never provide what it promises. If you do something, if you seek, you'll get something back in return. This just can't happen. It just can't. Not because it's not allowed to happen, because I think seeking is wrong. It's not wrong. It's what seems to be happening, but it's part of an illusion. And yeah, it doesn't deliver. The postman was here already, so no. No, no mix up this time. So there is no teaching, and this gathering isn't a teaching. However, what seems to be happening is an exposure of this illusion to be an illusion. It's still not in order to create something new. It's not in order to fulfill someone or bring about something new. That's just what seems to be happening here. But that's what seems to be happening for no deeper reason. But apparently, it's just possible. The turning out that there is no one. It's not something like no, it's not. No one has to be special or something like that. It's very ordinary. It's very ordinary that there is no becoming, and the obviousness that there doesn't have to be any of that.
Hi, Andreas.
Hello.
Just on what you just said about what happens is the exposure of the illusion to be an illusion, but there's no intention with that. It's possible for the person to get that because not only it assumes everything has an intention or a reason that's leading somewhere, but especially here, because it's so focused on talking about wholeness.
Yeah, I understand. I know, yes.
And it really feels like this is, I know you, it just feels like this is addressing me.
Yeah, of course. I know.
And there's such a deep belief or feeling that I will see this or get this somehow.
Yeah, understand. Yeah.
It makes no sense. Well, of course, that's what
Yeah.
Tony always says. But it makes no sense that these meetings would apparently happen for no reason.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Well, in the end, for the person, it doesn't make sense that anything happens for no reason. But yeah, yeah. And of course, when I say the exposure of the illusion and stuff like that, it sounds like a gain or a process or another teaching. I know.
It's just an empty happening that the illusion.
Well, the
This,
illusion is an empty happening and the collapse of it. Really.
thank you.
Thank you. Which, of course, for the person has the notion that it's wrong or bad. I mean, for the person, an empty happening is regarded as bad, but it's whole and complete at the same time. It's this. It's just us having these meetings with its own dynamic, so to speak. That's it. That's whole and complete already.
I'm just thinking when you say that, obviously, this being an empty happening that doesn't serve anything, is the apparent freedom, because it's just not about anything. But then at the same time, the personal idea of freedom is nothing to do with this not going anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. I mean, the freedom isn't really that this is not going anywhere. I mean, the person's idea of this has to go somewhere is the prison, is part of the prison. That's painful in a way, almost, to think that this free happening or this free appearance that's just playfully doing what it does, that it has to serve a deeper purpose. That's mm.
So, what is the person's idea of freedom? Is it just a state that I can be in that lasts or something?
Well, I think that's probably different for everyone what they regard as freedom. Well, some people would say I'm free when I can do everything I want. Some people would say I'm free if nothing touches me, if I can be a stable and happy me that's not, yeah, not touched by anything, that's not a victim of the emotional roller coaster or stuff like that. So I think everyone has their own version of what they think freedom is.
But it all has to do with something that I am able to hold on to.
Yeah, with me being free from something and maybe hold on to that state, to a stable state of whatever, freedom or love or.
Yeah.
And the holding on to would me being aware of it, owning it. It's
Mm.
my state of freedom and nothing can take it away from me. I think
Yeah.
this would be the holding on to it.
And I can move through life with that.
I could move through life as that free, stable me. That
Yeah.
somehow, yeah, free from suffering, free from seeking. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, in an awareness teaching, they would even say free from birth and death, but by being this stable awareness or having a stable experience of being pure awareness. That's how they try to eliminate birth and death conceptually, so or and with an experience, which never really works, but that's how they, they try to escape what seems to be happening. Because what seems to be happening is, of course, the birth and the death of a body.
You said something like the search never delivers what it promises,
Yeah,
but like uh, the search in everyday things like sometimes seems to deliver. Like, for example, you build a garden house and then like you work sometime and in the end you have your garden house. So like it seems like you could do something and yeah.
exactly. Yeah, that's yeah. And having finished the garden house may even bring happy feelings for a while. But what it doesn't deliver, or what the person is actually looking for, is something deeper, a deeper joy or fulfillment in which the garden house may play a role. Of course, the me probably wouldn't expect perfect fulfillment from owning a garden house, but it might have the impression that it's somehow part of having a fulfilled life. And this will never be delivered. Not not in owning the garden house, nor in having the joy of having finished it. This delivery doesn't happen.
Or lately I was watching some documentaries about some people who had a very horrible experiences in their past. They
Yeah.
were victim from violation or whatever. And there was one woman who several years after that, she had a very bad life because of the trauma. She like her life was very bad because she was thinking badly about herself, and so like people kept treating her badly and stuff like this. And in one moment somehow this changed,
Hmm.
and she decided to uh, somehow she took a different path, and
Mhm.
she is very strongly convinced like that you can uh, take
Choose.
your fate in your hands, and you can build yourself a beautiful life. And she's a very good example of this. Like she's obviously much more happy than she was.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. The only thing, the thing is, I don't want to say anything against that
Mm,
because all of that is what seems to be happening. The only illusion would be that it was really her doing it, and that there really is someone to whom this happens. And I don't want to make it wrong, it's apparently that's a gorgeous story.
mm,
However, I'm pretty sure that even in her having a better life now, which isn't hers, that's the thing, it's not her life, but in apparently having a better life, the seeking itself hasn't stopped. So
yeah,
this
she's
doesn't
not obviously what you say, this slightly feeling something is still not okay. I'm sure that is there.
exactly,
Yeah, but she is convinced like that she did. Yes,
of
yeah.
course, that she is someone and that either she did it. I mean, there are also similar stories like that where people would even say, I didn't do it, it just happened to me. Some people wouldn't even claim this decision to be their own. They would say, I would have never changed the situation, but life gave it to me, or and this is all right. It's just still seen through personal eyes.
Mm,
That's everything. And in a way, she can't see, or this me can't see, that having had the bad time in her life and having the so-called bad time and the so-called bad story and the change for the better is already whole and complete. That all of it was whole and complete and is whole and complete. She would, or this me, would still feel the need to seek. But oh yeah, life can become better apparently, or what we regard as better. That's it's a story in the end. But
mm.
yeah, of course. But stuff like that can happen.
I also don't think that she did it because like if you could do it, you would never decide to have such a bad time. Like if you really could decide what happens, you
What
would not.
happens exactly?
Yeah.
And I mean, the interesting thing is
Mm,
that now she starts teaching others, which is also good and all right. And for some people, a change might happen, and for a lot of people, a change won't happen, and they would just feel not strong enough or whatever.
mm,
But that's all right. Say, there's nothing wrong with that. But there is the illusion that there is someone with
mm,
all the with all the ingredients that there is real good and bad, and that someone can take action and create something better.
Yeah, so it
But
seems like that sometimes.
absolutely, absolutely. But on the other hand, of course, it was probably there were many illusions running about I have to stay in that situation, I'm a bad person, or all the beliefs and concepts that also were confirmed by the trauma and stuff. I mean, probably there was an illusion running all the time.
This is what she is saying herself, that she, if she had a different mindset, she never would have fallen into this situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The thing is that there just never really was anyone doing anything of that.
Mm.
That's all. That's all
Yeah.
I can say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
I know. Now I'm starting to ask everything. Well, I hope there will something be left for later.
When we talk later. Well, whenever is fine for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Thank you. Okay, question. How can choices be made when there is no one? Yes, they aren't made. And are choices created from the mind or brain? Well, then one would need to say apparently. All of it just is what seems to be happening, and that are us having brains or bodies having a brain, living, doing, making choices, and no one's doing them, really. Yeah, there is no one. No one's choosing their thoughts. No one is choosing their actions. No one is choosing which thoughts are believed, kind of believed, so yeah, no one's doing it. That's also the thing with the story we just talked about. It's just an illusion that there is someone who's really in charge of anything. It's just not the case. But of course, if suddenly a belief system drops and suddenly apparently new thoughts seem to enter the system, that's what seems to be happening. But never because there is someone doing it, creating, or experiencing it. This me is dreamt. And in one way or the other, this me will always live in a personal story about good and bad, unfulfilled, fulfilled, better, worse, and in one way or the other suffer from it. But nonetheless, is there a choice? Well, not really. No, there are no choices because there is no real happening and there aren't two real possibilities. It's not really. All of it just is what seems to be happening. And that there are several possibilities is already part of the dream. So if choosing happens, that's what seems to be happening. But never because there is a real choice. There never is.
Andreas?
Yes.
Going to the grocery store or going to the toilet or doing anything is the me?
But no,
No.
it's what seems to be happening. No one's doing it. Even if there is the impression I'm doing it or I decided to do this or that, it's still what seems to be happening. I mean, when the body goes to the toilet, the me might follow, but
The me is kind of an overlay over that.
say again.
The me is an overlay over Like this, it says, I am going to the toilet, and then
Kind of. One could
okay.
say so. Yeah, it's also a bit of a simplified idea. To me, it's just an overlay, but yeah, kind of.
And when consciousness falls away, nothing is perceived.
Well, there is a living body, and apparently the body is conscious, kind of, but the illusion of being a separate consciousness that's experiencing stuff, perception in that sense,
Hmm.
that's illusory. But it's not that in liberation the body has to stop functioning. So there's still
Yeah.
seeing and hearing, or can be.
But it is kind of an end, no? Something that
Yeah, kind of. One could say so, but it's not the experience of something having ended. That's the weird thing about it. Because when the me thinks about an end, it has this moment in its mind, a point where something has ended, like a movie has ended, and I'm aware of it. Or a relationship has ended and I'm experiencing this end. And the end that we talk about here isn't like that at all. So there's never a final point or this experience of, yeah, as I said, something having ended.
but it's not like a feeling like, oh, it's coming, it's something is coming. Like the liberation is approaching or anything. That's not necessarily that's
No,
just an experience.
no, never really. Because the person cannot comprehend at all what we talk about. And this assumption that, oh, something will be coming, that is part of the dream.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to express something that I apparently experienced. Is more like that nothing I looked at or anything could be I couldn't say what it is. Like there's no
Yeah,
mm, it's all it's a continuous thing then. It's a continuous not knowing of what
so to
anything.
speak, yeah.
Mm.
There'll never be anything that's known again. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. It's not an ongoing experience. That would be the word ongoing mean, so to speak.
Mm.
But oh yeah, of course.
But then
Known, a
there
known
was still
word will
someone
never
trying
come back.
to understand this experience of not. There was still something like, oh, what is this? What is this not knowing?
Yeah, that's where I thought those words of ongoing are coming from. Yeah.
Mm.
Now I try to understand this.
That's the me then.
Well, that's what seems to be how. Yeah, one could
Yeah.
say so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's still something that seems to be known,
There's still something that seems to be known, even though
and
no
still
object is
someone
known.
seeing things that cannot be known.
Mm.
Which it's all right. I mean,
I never get anything from these meetings.
never. Okay. Well, you should know that by now.
At least I try.
Yeah, that's fine. That's why we have those lovely conversations.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, Tobias.
Hey there. That was very nice. Just hearing the last, was it Daria, the last speaker, calling them. It's interesting for those of us who still believe there's a person here who's having a life. It feels like if one's heart is resonating so strongly with this message, or there's had been a few glances, it's like betting everything on black, or betting everything on infinite nothingness of black. Is if your heart is with this message, yet there still feels like there's somebody there. It's a powerful thing to have resonating through your being. My question was that okay, just to make very clear, you know, we often speak of the inverted commas experience of I being like a dream, and I know this is a semantic problem, but let's be clear: there's no entity on any level that could be having that dream.
Yes.
We're very clear on that. So it's an illusion, as it were, unto itself. Okay. Now, in the glimpses that many of us here have had, it certainly strikes me as very, very clear that there can never now be considered to be a process that would take this illusory sense of separate self anywhere. These meetings, as you always say, some of us still deeply don't believe, are truly, truly, truly pointless. But it's like it's not even happening. The
Yeah.
idea of happening now strikes me as something that only a separate me could have, because in times when that separate me isn't there, you can't say anything's happening. So there can't be any movement, especially through a time we don't have. So the question is,
No.
this separate sense of I that still continues as an illusion. There's an illusion had by no one.
Yes.
In its
And it's actually only an apparent illusion. The illusion isn't an illusion. It's just what seems to be happening. How it
so
feels, what you think, how life seems to be perceived. There is no illusion in that. It's just what seems to be happening.
but I get what you're saying, but what I find so shocking is that in the moments when it's properly not there, it's very obvious that there's no capacity for it to be there. It's when that's not there, there is no such thing as the me, and you get the very strong impression that there never has been. But it's obviously not bedded in enough here because there's still a me, and I don't understand how there can be that recontraction when it's really genuinely seen in, I hate the word glimpse, but let's just say those, because it sounds like it's an experience, and it's, if anything, it's a light on the fact that there aren't experiences. So
Yeah, it's
how,
amazing.
when it makes no sense that when it's seen that there is no me, there couldn't even be an idea of a me. It's not a me having that, it's just a part of the revelation and realization. Yet there seems to then be a sort of, not a real person, because it's not, you know, everything seems very spontaneous and flowing. How does that recontract, or why would it, when it doesn't seem to have the foundations of its own belief to
Oh
trod?
no, it's wholeness itself doing that.
So it's almost like, I don't want to suggest it because it almost sounds like a practice, but I don't want there to be things that a me would push away and a me would accept. But when you frame it as wholeness appearing as separation,
No, it's wholeness
when
being separation.
wholeness being separation, when that separation has disappeared, where is that reconcreting of the separate experience coming from? And why should it be wedded to that apparent story of Andreas or Tobias or whatever? You would have thought when you touch that reality, which is realization,
Yeah,
it's
but
so
but
obvious.
it just isn't like that. I understand that you might have thought that, but it's just not like that.
Mm. You know, in the apparent story of Andreas, I remember you saying you'd had some You felt it more, not so much as glimpses, but a sort of contraction or dying, I think, slow dying you'd mentioned. I know it's very hard to describe, but you've mentioned it.
Yeah, but I didn't experience this. That's just what seemed to have happened. It's a story that I can tell afterwards. But I had
Yeah,
a completely different experience while I was still alive. I had an experience of being alive and being on a path. I didn't even feel as if I'm going to die. It felt as if I'm slowly starting to live at that time.
okay. Well, the question that arises from that is, at what point was the end, the cessation or final ending of the me, which isn't revealed to anyone or experienced by
Well,
anyone.
it happened. Well, it happened at the end. It just happened.
We
It
have
just
to
happened
accept
when
that
it
happen
happened.
in
You
the
know,
end.
the final sensation of the me. Oh, that sounds dramatic. The final sensation of the me just is exactly what it is. The final
And so,
sensation of the
if
me.
we want
That's
to talk,
just what seems to have happened.
yeah, it's so hard to put it. We're trying to put into.
It's just like taking a yogurt out of the fridge. That's the cessation of the illusion of me. It's the same quality. And well, it's not even having a quality. It's just the same. It's just what seems to be happening. There's nothing to it.
Yeah, it's just reconciling with the fact that it's very strong impression that it's already done. When you have a proper glimpse, it's very obvious that
Oh
there's not
no,
any.
obviously nothing is done in a glimpse. And nothing is over in a glimpse. And I mean, in that sense, there isn't something called a proper glimpse.
Yeah, this is why.
It's giving it way more reality and meaning than it has.
This is the problem, because that's
Yeah,
already all the time. Yeah,
That's the problem, that it wasn't as real as it seemed to be.
yeah,
And no matter what was seen or obvious, it's just useless, because nothing can be seen and nothing is obvious. Or if you use the word obviousness, it's no one's obviousness. It's not that something has been obvious in a glimpse and afterwards you own that obviousness. Oh no, it's gone in the moment. This me illusion seems to reappear, or seem to have been reappeared. It
yeah.
can't be collected. It can't be taken with one's self. It's
I
impossible.
I get what you're saying. The underlying issue, I'll finish now, but the underlying issue is in, let's stretch the language and say those moments of revelation. I know it's a difficult words
And
to
they are
use, but
just no ones. That's the thing. Nothing is revealed to anyone. I understand when there is no me, or when this illusion isn't there, there isn't, well, there isn't seeking in all that stuff, but there isn't a real obviousness to anyone.
yeah, I have no problem with that at all, and I'm in total agreement. If anything, that is the problem, because when that occurs, it's totally impersonal. There's no answer or meaning to it. It's comes from who knows where, and it's nothing appearing as that. So for then that secondary, if you want to call it that, contraction, which seems from within that setting so impossible, I find shocking that that return arrives along with a person to whom it appears to have arrived. Because prior to that, in a glimpse, there isn't somebody with or without that, right? So this whole edifice of illusory selfhood pops back up from an environment where it clearly can't exist or ever have exist. And the one who has to think, what the fuck's that, is itself that emerging illusion. It just seems so farcically impossible and inexplicable.
Yeah, it
Can
doesn't
you?
make sense, but what happens never made sense, really.
No. Okay. Well, I'll thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, of course, it only doesn't make sense when you already have a concept, because in the end, why? Well, my question would be, why wouldn't it be possible, or why shouldn't it be possible? Which idea is behind that? There's already a story running, an assumption about how it is. I really have no idea why it should be impossible. I mean, it's what seems to be happening all the time. Every morning, for most people, the illusion of self-awareness seems to wake up. That's the same thing. It's like coming out of a glimpse. And
Yeah, but you know,
there's
to
never an
even
answer to
frame that
why or
statement,
how.
but to even frame that statement, we're having to talk about most and mornings and people and having, which is already such an illusory story that, you know, it's like you say, there's just no meaning that can be extracted from that. There's no opinion or answer that can be extracted from that. Um, no, maybe I'm just whinging at the return of a me. I don't think it's much more complex than that, but it does seem confusing that it can arise again from an environment whence one would imagine that it couldn't even exist, is
Mm,
basically the confusion.
yeah.
Um,
Yes.
anyway, I don't want to hog all your time. Thank you, Danny. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Hey, Andreas.
Hello.
Hi.
I can
Can
hardly
you?
hear
Oh,
you.
no. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yep, better.
Okay, good. Yeah, so we were kind of discussing a little bit in a group, you know, the futility and the sweetness in a way of this apparent message, and it feels like, I mean, this is just a sharing, really. It just feels like it's very embodied in a way. Like there's a lot of turmoil going on. There's a lot of everything going on. It's sweet and it's also like frustrating, and it's just, yeah, I don't know, just almost kind of a hellish feeling to it. It's just, I don't know, in the body. And in the midst of all this, it feels like there is more an obviousness of that this is only just an appearance. It's not even so serious anymore. It's just what's going on. Like it's just what's going on.
Yeah, there's just what's going on, and that's it.
Yeah, and
Yes.
it feels like this. Nobody's claiming this obviousness. It just feels that things are more obvious, and it's a loss of, you know, even subtle beliefs that I am even here to do anything, or there's anyone to do anything. Like it's, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that is, but it feels like something is obvious, but
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, something is obvious, but what's even obvious, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
there's just much less of those other things, or much less of me, or however you want to call it. Suddenly, there's just totality. That's not even obvious. Everything just becomes total, and everything just becomes very clearly what it is, but not conceptually at all. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And then a question, because we were talking about the seeking energy. Someone was talking about that. But it's totally unconscious. Like it's not, it just goes on by itself in a way. Like it just, isn't it? Like,
Absolutely.
yeah.
That's the thing, no one's having it. And
Yeah,
in a
no one's
way,
having it. It's just,
and in a way, even in that, consciousness is illusory. No one's really conscious about themselves. No one's really conscious about their being seeking. Absolutely.
yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Andreas,
Yeah.
would you say that all these ideas, like there are people here, there's a meeting, I have a life, there are objects, all of that is an illusion?
Yes. Yeah, because there are no people. We don't have a meeting, and there is no one who has a life.
Hmm. Why are these words then closer to the appearance than what I said? Like there is no meeting, like just the opposite of what I said. Why is it closer to
Oh, it's not closer.
not
It's
closer?
just I don't think that it's closer. You're saying this, and this being your experience is what seems to be happening, and what I'm saying is what seems to be happening as well.
Hmm. Yeah, they're always the same ideas repeated, like, and a lot of the ideas that need to be regurgitated a lot of times, I feel like there's no free will and all of this. It doesn't need to be, but it just appears to happen.
And what say again? What seems to be happening? That you
These ideas, they're like just like I said, there is no meeting, there's no one here. They seem to reappear, and in these meeting at least, like a lot of times. Like even though I just felt when I said it, I felt like we heard this thousands of times, but I
yeah
still feel like I want to make the point or whatever. I don't know.
yeah yeah. I mean, for the person, those sentences remain ideas,
Hmm.
so to speak.
Oh yeah.
And but the thing is, they can never be really heard. So when I say them, they are not planting new ideas or planting new concepts, but that's how the person sees it and then fails to really understand it.
It doesn't really see what is being expressed, but
What's
more
being expressed, and so maybe it remains a mystery.
it creates like a imagination or like a something. What is
And a
whatever.
conflict, an imagination and a conflict between
Hmm.
those ideas and its experience,
And maybe other ideas.
or other ideas, or whatever, exactly.
Hmm.
Mm. And on the one hand, it's a conflict, and on the other hand, it's a conflict that the person wants to solve, of course,
Hmm.
because what the person wants to be is without conflict, where I'm not having a conflict anymore. And of course, then there can be this attraction and the openness to what's talked about here, but this is utterly not conceptual at all.
Hmm. You use the word enigma sometimes?
Enigma? No,
No.
no, because I don't know what it means.
It's what I guess it's like mystery. I don't know. I'm not English, so I don't know. Maybe I should look it up.
I
Just like
just
the
know
word.
it from history. It was a machine in the Second World War, but I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not knowing what enigma means is the explanation of an enigma. It's something that you
wonderful.
don't understand what it
Rätsel. Oh yeah.
means.
Yeah,
Rätsel.
Rätsel. All
Yeah.
right. Yeah, wonderful.
And it's deeply mysterious and hard to unravel. Hence the enigma Nazi code.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I know it from. Yeah, it was a code, I think. Yeah, I
Mm.
think it was the Nazis, or the Germans' code that the British found in the middle of the war, which changed, well, whatever.
But your
Yes,
website,
that's how it seems to the person.
your website is called Wonder, Timeless Wonder.
Yes.
Mm. It's
Yeah.
kind of,
It's a lovely name, I think.
yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything. But...
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah. Just one thing. I mean, the idea that this is not real isn't closer to what we talk about than the idea that this is real. The idea that there is no free will and choice is as close to what we talk about here than the idea that there is free will and choice. They would just be ideas for someone. So people running around trying to explain to others why there isn't free will and choice because science found out that there isn't, whatever, for whatever reason, or why they explain why there is no free will and choice. There would just be someone living in the same illusion that they are someone than other people who would teach free will and choice. So there aren't ideas that are closer to what we talk about here than other ideas, really.
And Andreas doesn't have an overview over the way he speaks.
Yeah, exactly. Not at all.
There's no one there who has like an idea about the message. The totality of my communication is
Not at all.
this way because
Oh no! If someone asked me, Andreas, what are you saying? I couldn't come up with anything. I don't have a message at all, and it's not that there is a message or that there is something that I can have a few corner points that I can do. Boop, 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 boop. Oh no, not at all. And of course, that's the funny thing that seen from the person, this might come across like an objective truth. That's the truth. That's not subjective anymore and not colored by a person. It's the objective truth or something. That's how it may feel, or the absolute truth. And it just isn't like that. It's way more different than the seeker assumes it to be. Was this correct English? I have no idea. Obviously, I don't know what I'm saying. I think it was just a nice start for a sentence. No.
You don't know what you're saying in many languages.
Yeah, exactly. That was the language of a German who doesn't speak English.
No, your English is beautiful.
Yes, thank you. It just didn't show in this sentence. Yes, there is no truth. There is no message. There's nothing that I have to say. And again, it's more like a reply. This whole energy, this whole message is more like a reply. A spontaneous or timeless reply that's not coming from anywhere. And again, this may sound like an enigma for the person. What is meant by that? And all I can say, it's way more natural than it sounds. Yeah, Tobias, do you?
Sorry, it was just what you're saying, like with a response or a reply sounds so much more natural for part of the timeless spontaneity. Almost contained in the question is the answer if you wanted to divide them.
Yes.
It was all just arising. It's very obvious that.
Absolutely.
It's part of what makes it such a I don't think we make an effort to delineate all the reasons or make differences between all the reasons why one is drawn to this or resonates with this. But things like that you mentioned, it's such a different paradigm to what is ordinarily presented to one in the outside world that
Absolutely. Yes.
some little seeds that are thirsting for that rain just sprout towards the sun of your smiling face.
Poetry, pure
Sprout towards the
poetry to
sun of
that.
nothingness. Yeah. So not phototropism, what would you call it? Zero, nihil tropism, growing towards nothing, just nothing, dissolving into it.
Yeah. Okay, there's a question in the chat. Do I remember correctly? You said before that you are saying is also what seems to be happening. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes. Or everything is what seems to be happening, and this includes this message or this meeting and this communication. It's also just what seems to be happening. It's not coming from anywhere. It's not coming from outside. That's the thing. The person would love this to be, and as I said, an objective truth that sees all, or that comes from an seeing how it really is, so to speak. And it's not like that. So there are no individuals anywhere. Yes, exactly. There isn't anyone. There are no individuals. Everything's just what seems to be happening. Totally. Yes. There is no one here. And it's this. There is no one here, and it's still this. No one's doing anything here. No one's experiencing anything here. But it's this. All right, so that's about it. There won't be any Zoom meetings next week, but whoever's able to travel and wants to travel can come to Barcelona, where we're going to have a residential. We are actually quite fully booked, but I think we could still squeeze someone in somewhere. So whoever wants to join that is very welcome. Besides that, there's nothing to say. There is no message. There's nothing to get. There is no one to get anything. There's no one who has lost something. This is what seems to be happening, and this is incomprehensibly perfect and whole and complete. It's very natural. It's not finding something. It's not that wholeness will be seen and celebrated in an inner dance or something. No, it's everywhere. It's everything for no one, of course. Everything is free and everything is complete already. But not for anyone, but cares about that? No one. Thanks a lot for joining. I wish you a lovely time. Nice to see you. Thank you very much. Have a good time. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Andreas.
Thank you. Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.